Now that you've seen lots of quality activities for fluency, I want to share 5 activities to avoid. Now, you will find sometimes listed online or in textbooks that these activities are activities to practice fluency. And yes, they are. But these are actually activities that can hurt fluency and hurt readers' confidence. And this is a big part of fluency that we haven't talked about. How many of you were just amazing, phenomenal readers from the start? If you were, you probably would not mind these activities at all. But if you were not a phenomenal reader and at one point or another struggled or were reluctant to read out loud in front of a class, you know the fear you have inside of you when someone asks you to read in front of the class. Everyone's listening, everyone's watching, they're waiting for you to mess up. And these 5 activities were common practices when I went to school and actually even when I began teaching that put the pressure on students to read out loud in front of whole groups of classrooms or even small groups. And it's in text that is brand new. It's not something they've practiced multiple times. And the focus becomes not how well they read, but their stress takes over, their confidence drops, and they are paying so much attention to this stress that they can't even follow along as others read. And so these activities are round robin reading, popcorn reading, combat reading, touch and go reading, and popsicle stick reading. And chances are you've either participated in these or you've seen other teachers do them. Just a quick little summary. Round robin reading is where you're in your textbook or a storybook and you're going around your classroom and everyone reads a paragraph. I remember doing this in my class, not my classroom that I taught in, but as a student. And I was a fairly good reader, but I would look around the room and I would count paragraphs to figure out which paragraph would be mine so I could practice it ahead of time. And a lot of times teachers read out of textbooks round robin reading, and that means if I'm figuring out which paragraph is mine, I am not listening to any of my classmates read, and I am not learning anything from that textbook. So round robin reading is a huge no-no. Popcorn reading is actually quite popular in guided reading groups right now, and popcorn reading is where someone reads and then they say pop and they call out a name. And then someone else reads, and then they call it a name. And so you just keep popping, and it doesn't have to go in order, so you can never read ahead, but you're always worrying about when it will be your turn. So that's a no-no. Combat reading is where you're a reader, and then the teacher tries to choose someone who doesn't look like they're following along and doesn't look like they're ready, and you pass it to them to read. Well, holy cow, that's just mean. We don't want to try to call out our classmates. We don't want to catch them off guard. We don't want to scare them to hate reading. Combat reading is a no-no. Touch and go reading is just like popcorn reading, except for the teacher or a classmate touches someone to pass the passage along. Again, just not good. And last is popsicle stick reading, and this is where you're reading out loud as a whole group and the teacher is pulling a popsicle stick to randomly call on people. It's just that the practice of reading aloud in a whole group is in unfamiliar text, and that's the big key here. These are stories that you haven't practiced. And so for your students that aren't good readers, they are fearful and they feel badly about themselves at the end of this experience. And anything that becomes that negative will deter them from wanting to be readers. So these 5 activities should be avoided. What I'd like you to do on this slide is to click on the Do This Instead button and read the short article of what to do instead of these 5 practices. And then when you found an activity that you like better, click on the Here to go into Padlet and share a better activity. Also, just take a quick look at everyone else's shares just so you can see the different things that you can do instead of these 5 practices.